Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for Truth show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkov, and today we have a special guest coming all the way from India to share with us today on A Time for Truth, and on some very important topics affecting our families, our kids, all over the globe. And Buddha, if you put her pictures up on the screen, I will introduce our special guest, Vasu Yajnik-Setia of New Delhi, India. And there you go. She's the executive director of the Foundation for Drug-Free World India, and holds degrees in computer application, starting her career in 1985 with UNICEF and subsequently Apple Computers. In 1989, she joined NAS.com, India's premier association of software development, and traveled extensively during this time. In 1995, she joined Chatraka magazine as website visualizer, and in 1988 produced the Indian website for the British Council. Vasu has helped direct the Delhi International Football League as a committee member for 8 years, and in 2013 started her own brand of clothing, ODE, Western Shapes for Indian Women. Her life calling came in 2016 when she realized and founded the Foundation for Drug-Free World India. And along with her team of friends, of dedicated ladies, they've reached over 750,000 people across India, with a volunteer base of 800 spanning 21 states. Her Drug-Free World group has formed over 60 alliances to spread the truth to families and children and youth in India. They have received support from the Narcotics Control Bureau, the Police Academy, the Regional Police Departments, Education Directorate, National Anti-Crime, and the Human Rights Associations of India. Her Drug-Free World Foundation is being recognized as a standard in drug education and awareness, which is bringing about cultural change and safety all over her continent of India. And it's my pleasure, Buddha, if you put up on the screen, Vasu Yajnik-Setia from India. Welcome to the Time for Truth, Vasu.
Thank you, Dr. Bernard. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure.
Well, you know what? We're going to save every moment here, so let's get started right away. I wanted to ask you, because you're a mother, you have a family, you have two young men that are your children, and you have your business line with the clothing. And so what I wanted to ask you is, how do you find the time to integrate? Because it's a very common complaint people have is, I would love to, but I don't have the time.
I make time mostly. It's a matter of priority. It's a matter of organizing. I think I organize my life into things that need to be done. There are many times when I feel that I'm not doing enough. There's so much to do. We have a huge country, and the population is just bursting its seams. So we are, I do put in a lot of time, but mainly it's a matter of what's my priority, how I prioritize. And I have a lot of help. I seek and get a lot of help.
That's excellent, because it's so important to get other people involved. What do you think is the secret of obtaining the help of others? Because I see that you've developed quite a volunteer base. How did you do that? What is it that you emphasize?
Actually, it just comes from a particular mindset. I came from the mindset that this is a cause that is close to everybody. This is something that any and everybody can get involved in. So I just went out there looking at each and every citizen as a volunteer. So for me, anybody can contribute, whichever way. So if they are, if they are homemakers, or they are businessmen, or they have, suppose you're a graphic designer, help us out with that. If you're into promotions, help us out with that. If you've got a few minutes, connect us to somebody. So everybody for me became a volunteer, and just by validating whatever they could and not really demanding too much, I found a lot of people were willing to help. Just welcoming help, whichever way. And if somebody kind of backed off because they were very busy at that time, or for whatever reason the scenario had changed, I didn't go back at them and say, you promised, or you didn't do this, or whatever. Just let it flow. Just let it flow.
That's a great way of doing it, because really long term, so much happens every day to all of us that sometimes we have other priorities that come up, problems. It makes total sense to me. I wanted to ask you something, because I see that you're all over the country. So do you have meetings with your group, or how do you like to organize your group and direct it?
In the beginning, I haven't met 99% of my volunteers, actually. And in the beginning, we were going out, and we used to go out within the city. I live in the national capital, so within the national capital region, I used to go out with my sons, with my team of friends, many volunteers who joined up at that time, and we built a really nice bond and a core group. But when we started expanding outside the city, it wasn't possible for me to travel out at all. And then the last 2 years we had the pandemic, and the subsequent lockdown. So I didn't go out. But yes, we are in an age of communication and information. So we've been in touch with our volunteers on, like I'm connecting with you over Zoom. I have about 48 groups through which I run, the volunteer programs in various parts of the country. 48 groups on WhatsApp itself. So working on it, it's and then you set up a group, you set up a few people, you see there's a collection of people, you just pick one guy, one person who's more responsive, who's easier to communicate with, and just kind of promote him a little bit as the communicator for that group, as the leader for the group, and take it on from there. So yes, I do plan, now that my boys are off to college, I do plan to visit a lot of our states and meet up with our volunteers.
Excellent. Excellent. I know you're probably going to look forward to that because you established so much and to go to the areas to see the results. So I wanted to ask you, why is it that you picked Foundation for Drug Free World? What is it that you liked about the program?
Many years ago, before I was involved with Drug Free World, before I even knew there was something called Drug Free World, we were invited to a friend's house for a talk. There was a gentleman who'd been traveling around. He'd come in from Italy, and this friend invited me to her home. And I went with my boys. And at the end of our seminars, we usually ask, "Would you like others to know about this?" And obviously, everybody says yes, and things like that. On the way back in the car, my younger son says, "Mom, I want my friends to know about this." And I said, "Oh, great, okay, that's good." And I left it at that. Mothers don't always follow through with everything that the kids say. But a few years later, we had, I started noticing how the younger generation was just, they would deviate towards the bars at every family location, and there was this compulsion. I felt it wasn't free. They didn't look very free. It was very compulsive, the way younger people, friends of my children, were insisting that we have alcohol at parties, or we serve them anything, any stimulants, so if you can't have alcohol, then serve us Red Bull. And then kids would walk in with their own little bits of alcohol, hidden. So I just found that, there's no freedom. They're looking a little, there's a lot of stress, all the fun times and meeting times and being there with friends. Like, if we didn't serve alcohol, which we never did, there were friends who wouldn't show up. They wouldn't show up. So I felt, this is not about friendship then. Your friendship is with the alcohol, not with my kids. And it took some time explaining to my children that true friendships aren't built on these kind of things, and it's all right for the child to not, for your friend to not come and things. It was rough for them. But then eventually, I think when I realized, I found, I went around looking for that gentleman. We did not find him. But I found a lot of people had been trained, and a lot of people were actually delivering drug-free world lectures. I just got them all together, started doing open houses, calling my friends, my children's friends, and that's how it just started. It wasn't planned as an organization. It was just something that worked for my children and me, and I thought, it's brilliant. Why not bring it back? We need to do something about it.
Well, that's a beautiful story, and it's funny how sometimes when you have something that's very positive and you have that philosophy, I see, of just letting things flow, how they naturally, when it's a positive experience and a positive factor in life, it just seems to occur, which is very nice. I wanted to ask you, when your group goes out with the programs, tell us a little bit so the viewers can understand, what is it that they talk about at their events, or if they go to a school, or if they go to a sporting event or a dance? What is it? How do they run this? Tell us.
So, before this lockdown, our best action was distribution drives. We would just go out to public places or wherever there was an event happening, a marathon. So, when we have marathons in India, people are not just allowed to come in. You need a lot of permissions, and those permissions are not easy or very convenient to get. So what we used to do is we used to man the gates of those areas, and after the marathon, we would just go and start distributing those, the Truth About Drugs booklets to 4,000-5,000 people who would exit from those marathons. And so that's how we did. We would just go, if there was a meeting or a gathering or a community event, we would just go there casually, and just not casually, but just go there with that purpose and just start distributing, or in marketplaces and stuff like that. And this was something that we participated in formally. So we have our banner and we had the whole thing set up. This was in 2019 we participated formally. But in the beginning we found that worked very well. Just being there, find out where there is a community event and reach there. And your question was, how do we start? When we're doing distribution drives, we don't talk. Our aim is to just get the booklets into the hands of the people, as many people as possible. So we just read and share, read and share, read and share, read and share, and we just keep moving on with a smile, as though we're handing out candy. So people, many a times it's like nobody wants to be left out, and they come running and they take and we've had a lot of people just from the streets taking the booklets from us and saying, I'll join you, because there's just so much enthusiasm, and it's so upbeat and uptoned that people just want to join us and participate in that. So we achieve good results by just being enthusiastic and not wasting time questioning people. It's all there in the booklet, so we don't talk much. But when we're invited to talk in schools, at corporate events, we usually have a PowerPoint presentation. This was a school we went and addressed. This was outside. This was in Punjab, and we were very well received and hosted. And so we present. We have a presentation. We present. We keep the presentation short yet interactive. We don't give it to them. We get them, like we have in the educator kit, get them to answer the questions, think for themselves, look around in their lives and see what we are saying. Does it make sense? Is it true for them? Because if it's not true, you could say anything to anybody and it won't be true for them. So we try to make it short but yet interactive, and then we open it up for question and answers, and we give a lot more data for them to work with in the question and answer session. We always end it with a pledge. It could be a verbal pledge. It could be, if we have a pledge roll, if we have a formal setting, we open up a pledge roll and have people sign those pledges. So we always end every event with a pledge and the question, would you like others to know about this?
Well, that's an excellent review to show, and the people can go on the site drugfreeworld.org and do the same thing wherever they are watching this show, or in Spanish, vidasindrogas.org. And, go ahead and start that. Obviously, with all the drug problems in the world, we need to get started. We need to expand educating and safeguarding our families. So I wanted to ask you, how do you see the situation in India right now with the drugs, especially during this COVID stress that's occurred now for almost 2 years?
Yes, COVID and the lockdown and lack of opportunity to work, has taken a toll on citizens everywhere. India is not any different. There were plenty who were just laid off, had to leave the cities and go back to their villages. They were, in some ways, the ones who went back to their villages were better off, because the villages weren't so terribly monitored. So they still had things to do and go back, and there was freedom, at least lots of space. While in the cities, they were trapped in their little homes there. Many of them were in very, very small compartmental homes. So it did take a toll. And then, I think it's also how governments look at it. When schools were shut down, this is something that I've been saying again and again, schools were shut down, livelihood was taken away, but alcohol was being supplied at home, right? And obviously it was a field day for drug dealers and people somehow or the other towards the end of the first lockdown, because in the initial 3 to 4 months of the lockdown was really a withdrawal period for the country. There were many who didn't have access, and that was a very good opportunity to move people. Families could have moved their people and taken them to rehabs or reconstructed lives or whatever, but that was something people didn't notice or didn't put any effort into. And then the alcohol deliveries and things were opened up, and that is when things went bad. That's when things went bad. It's not good, and it's something that, if you don't recognize a problem, or you don't call it a problem, or you misname the problem, it becomes worse.
Absolutely. Here in the United States this past year, we had 93,000 deaths during COVID in comparison to an already high figure from the previous 3 years of approximately 70,000 every year of deaths due to drugs. So it's definitely gone up. And, I was actually looking at some statistics worldwide, and it seems like even globally, the consumption of drugs and alcohol during COVID went up almost 50% because of the stress levels, and like everything you said, with the loss of jobs, with the fact of people being cloistered away or not able to socialize. It's very, very introverting and a very difficult time for all of us. So I wanted to ask you, because we're coming to the end of the show, what concluding remark would you like to give our viewers on what you think is important to share?
I think what we need to look at is working concertedly together, working together with governments, with opinion leaders, with people like-minded, and citizens. More than that, citizens, as citizens, we need to demand that governments look at future leaders, at building, safeguarding and building our youth. It's not what is immediately needed. It has to have a viewpoint of what is needed in the long term. And I would say when we see our youth going in the direction of drugs, we're losing future leaders. Absolutely. And that is an alarm bell that I would like to press really hard, and have governments and policymakers look at it, that these policies of expediency that you're putting into place are not necessarily, they have no long-term benefits. They are actually detrimental. So definitely look at, even as a mother, I look at my sons as, if they are aware and they are participating in community development, they are future leaders. So wherever we are, let's work towards building future leaders for this. The world needs us. The world needs them.
Very, very well stated.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Vasu. It's been a pleasure to have you. And absolutely, let's reach out to all our leaders out there, the politicians, the lawmakers, and let's realize that there's a big epidemic in the world, and that's that we're losing our youth to drugs. And due to COVID, that they're even more stressed out, and so that they're taking higher drug percentages. They're vaping. Vaping is very high concentrations of THC.
Yes.
And we really have to protect our kids. So Vasu, thank you for the example you're setting in India, and it's a pleasure having you. And we've had other men from different parts of the world. And for those of you watching the show, go out and check out drugfreeworld.org, as Vasu has said, and see what you would like to do to put your grain of sand in the world, and together we'll make a whole beautiful beach where there was just rocky cliffs and cold water. And with that statement, good night for now from A Time for Truth, and may you have a great day and a great week coming up.
Good night.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got. But the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. at your feet.